Welcome back to another episode of Jacques in the Garden. Today we are dealing with a little bit of a situation. I basically haven't been able to manage, clean up, and get in the garden for the past 4 or 5 days. So I wanted to take you guys with me, show you exactly how I would approach the garden after not being in it for a while, and exactly how I'm going to clean up, prune, and do all that sort of stuff. Let's go ahead and get started by checking out these dwarf tomatoes right behind me. So these are 7 dwarf tomatoes in ground. They're all supported by just a single bamboo stake. And I've actually been using a new type of twine for this, one that I haven't used before this season. This is a kind of stretchy, it's listed as a biodegradable twine. I'm not sure if that's actually true yet, but to me it feels kind of like just t-shirt material that's just been kind of looped into a nice string. So it's been working pretty well. It's good because it's flexible, but that's kind of how I've been tying these up. I'm also going to mention that I am no expert when it comes to tomato diseases. There are so many that look alike that in my mind, I try not to worry too much about it. I just try to remove what I know shouldn't be on the plant, something that doesn't look too healthy. And actually, since all my tomatoes look so good this year, I'm gonna try something that I never bothered with in the past, and that is using a sanitizing spray. So I'm gonna call the orange bucket the bad bucket, and this is just 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. So every time I transition from one plant to another, I'll probably spray these down. So we're gonna try it out this year. I can't remember which one this is. This is the Sweet Scarlet. So that's looking pretty good. As I come down here though, I see something like this. It's actually just pulled right off. This to me looks like a wilt. So the leaf shriveled up and it's pinching off towards the stem. You wanna come in there and grab it before it spreads into the rest of the plant. Since again, I am transitioning here, I'm gonna give them a spray. And it's important to remember that by spraying them, they're probably gonna oxidize a lot faster, but I'm really bad about my tools. I leave them all outside anyway. So I don't think it's that big of a deal for me because I don't mind seeing a little bit of rust. So there's another one. It's not looking too good. All right, so here's the thing with tomatoes is that, yes, they do get diseases. Yes, the leaves can look bad. Most of the time though, they can be saved. As long as you come in and keep on top of your pruning, there's nothing to say that a single disease can take over. And I think we're good on this one. We can move on down. So I'll finish up cleaning up these dwarves and then we'll take a look at the tomatoes right behind me on the trellis. So now we're over here in my raised bed with a trellis. So these are all single string. I say single string because as they grow and I start liking the tomatoes more and more, I go ahead and throw on extra strings. I can't help myself. But here's what I wanted to talk about right here with this plant. You'll see that there are a ton of tomatoes and there are no leaves from anywhere here down. This is a pruning technique that I've been practicing in my climate, in my area, with the context of knowing where I am. So I am in a coastal zone. I get coastal fog that rolls in and the temperatures hover in that sweet spot that powdery mildew absolutely thrives in. So if I were to just leave everything on here and left it really bushy without enough airflow, these plants would be absolutely wrecked with powdery mildew. And actually, right here, I see an example of it. So let me bring it in close, just to show you guys. So this is a leaf, looks absolutely healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But if I flip it over, what do you see? You see that there are all these little patches on the stem that is now spreading off to the leaves as well. This is powdery mildew. And there's just no way I could stop it in my garden. The only way I could stop it is by removing it and creating a context for the plant to grow healthy. So what I like to do is as the plants ripen, the fruit ripen, I remove any leaves below it. And if anything looks diseased, I just remove it. Now, if you're in an area that gets a lot of direct sun, then you can't really pull this off because what you're gonna end up with is a bunch of sun-scalded tomatoes that aren't gonna be very edible. So what I'm doing here though, is I'm removing any of the leaves that are kind of intermeshing and crossing each other because that's hindering my airflow and it's gonna just be ripe for powdery mildew. And right here, that's where all the powdery mildew is. If I look up into my canopy, I see a little bit forming, but I'm not too alarmed about it. I'm gonna go ahead and remove any of these inner leaves that are really the most effective. But that's really all there is to how I prune in this particular context. This bed gets afternoon shade from the jacaranda tree behind it, which is why I could get away with this kind of pruning. But if you're in a full sun environment, you have to be a little bit more careful. You might need to provide shade cloth because otherwise your tomatoes will get burned. So I'm gonna go through and do a little bit of harvesting here as well. This right here is the Lucky Tiger tomato. This has become one of my favorites this year. It's got this wonderful color and texture and stripiness to it. It has quite a thick skin, but this is a tomato that was developed to be able to actually hang on the plant for a very long time. So if I didn't actually need them right now, or if I didn't want to pick them right now, I could just leave them and they'll never really crack, and eventually they will over ripen and have overdeveloped flavors. But the beauty of this kind of plant is that you could just let them go for quite a while. As I come through and prune here, you're also going to notice I'm going to be removing a lot of these side branches. I just can't support them all and it's getting a little bit too much. The whole point of this method is that you're supposed to train as few stems as possible. So there are some ripening fruit right there. I'm gonna just go ahead and remove it. It's just too much growth in the wrong direction and it's just not worth it. So I'm gonna power through this and try to twine up some tomatoes. Here I want to share another tip. When you're harvesting things like cherry tomatoes, I like to harvest them when they're actually ripe on the plant because I'm just going to go ahead and eat them. Delicious sun gold. But when it comes to a larger slicer, even at this size, I actually prefer to harvest them right around here. So this tomato will actually go full red when it's actually ripe. Right now it has, I'm actually bringing it a little closer. It has this kind of orange hue to it. It's starting to get there, but it's not quite ripe. So if you pick it at this stage, the flavor 100% will be the same. This is true because it ripens from here up and it ripens from the inside out. So once it's already at this color, it's already begun the ripening. All the nutrients and everything are already in there. You just go ahead, pop this on your counter and it's going to ripen up. And it's also now not going to be targeted at squirrels, to birds, to critters, you name it. If you get rain, it's not going to split because you already harvested it. So there are a lot of advantages to doing that. But the main thing is you don't want to harvest it when it has a lot of green on it. It's just not going to taste the same. But once it's fully colored like this, there's really not going to be any difference. And you're just going to have to try it to believe me. I can't prove it any other way to you. So go ahead and try that experiment in your garden. So this is the end result. You could see a lot of tomatoes on the plant and almost no leaves down below. Again, not too worried about it based on the context I talked about with its location. But now let's go to the back side and talk about the tomatoes on the net. So these tomatoes are grown on a net and they are clipped on with little tomato clips. Overall, the system is nice because you can let them grow a lot more freeform, a lot bushier, and they tend to be easier to support that way. But I just wanted to bring you on this side, first of all, because I need to harvest some of these tomatoes. There's one, and I'm gonna pull this guy right here, it'll be number 3. And actually, I wanted to talk about this tomato right here from this plant. This is a plant that I purchased from the nursery at the start of the season because I wanted to get a Cherokee purple in early. But honestly, I don't think this is a Cherokee purple at all. It doesn't look quite right. I actually have the original tag here and it doesn't even look anything like the picture that they said. So this is a reason why I really like to start my seeds by myself. All the other tomatoes in my garden, except for this one, and the one behind me, are started from seed. All 3 of these I purchased from a nursery. This is not a Cherokee purple. It doesn't taste as good. It doesn't look right. And honestly, it didn't really grow that well. So just a reminder, there's nothing wrong with buying plants from the nursery. But if you've had something from the nursery and you didn't like it, don't assume that that was entirely correct. Try to grow it yourself from seed. You might find that it is actually something you really do enjoy, but you just didn't get the right plant. So that's it for the tomatoes on this side. Let's go check out those cucumbers. So now we're transitioning from the tomatoes over to the cucumbers. And I've already got a collection of tomatoes going, but let's go ahead and grab some of these cucumbers. This one here is called Boothby's. This is actually a little bit overripe. It's starting to turn a little too dark, but they do look yellow, which is quite cool. And actually here's a couple more ideal ones. That's probably the max I'm gonna wanna harvest this at. It's a very nice cucumber. The skin isn't very bitter at all. It has a nice firm texture, good crisp to it. I love using these in tomato salads, so that's definitely a keeper. I'm gonna move on over here and get one of these. This is called Tasty Green. This is from Kitazawa Seed Company. Very prolific, delicious cucumber. This is one that was labeled as an Armenian cucumber, but by looking at this, I could tell you it's 100% not an Armenian cucumber, but the cucumbers look good. I'll try this out and see if I actually like it. And then at the end here is actually a Bulgarian cucumber I brought back. Let me go grab it. Again, this is probably a tad early, but I want to try this out. It's a new variety to me. It's called Gergana. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the basket. But what we need to do here is assess what's going on. So This plant, I have to admit, guys, I did a really poor job of training them up vertically. I just kind of let them go and hope that they would work because I haven't had the time to deal with them properly. So with a net like this, you have a few options. The cheapest, easiest way is to just grab your cucumber plant ever so often and force it through one side. That way it'll now keep growing up. As it keeps growing up, I'll force it through the opposite end. Now it's forced to go vertically. That's what's going on that one over there. You'll also notice that I like to plant right in front of it. So right here I have a Valentine sunflower, looks quite nice. In the front here I have my arugula. I actually have a zinnia back here. So what I'm looking at here is that most of the plant looks quite good, but there's a lot of these leaves that have some sort of either disease or pest on them. I don't know too much about cucumber diseases, but it's a similar principle to most plants. If it looks really rough, like at this point, the amount of photosynthesis this plant can even do from this leaf is quite diminished because it has all these patches. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Anything else, what we're gonna try to do here is just weave it up so it keeps climbing upwards. I also have these little tomato clips here. They work on most plants. Any vining plant is totally fine. The way that works is you clip it onto the net and then you capture the stem inside of it. So that makes it also really easy. So I'm gonna just do a quick little evaluation here and see what I'm working with and definitely get some of the plant that's off the ground, like over there, and just try to support it up. That's pretty much all we need to do here. I might do a little more cleanup on some of these leaves, but overall, looking pretty good. Let's move on to the next task. Now we're over here in the area where I have my containers. And to be honest, I have neglected this part of the garden quite a bit. This goes to the point of you should move everything as close as possible to the house. This is the furthest section from the house. It also happens to be the furthest from irrigation. So that explains some of the neglect. But what I have here is the Cherokee X Carbon. It's a cross between Carbon and Cherokee Purple. And it's actually a lot better. This is one of my favorite tomatoes this year. That's the only reason, honestly, that this plant is still here, because it has quite a bit of disease and the tomatoes are starting to grow a little bit weird, like this tiny cherry-sized tomato. But I'm really hesitant to get rid of it because I like the flavor so much. But anyway, I'm gonna harvest some of these. This is an early girl, a couple hanging out over here. Early girl has been quite productive for me. And actually, interestingly enough, the early girl variety originated in San Diego. So that explains why it does so well here. Now I'm noticing I have a little bit of blossom end rot on this guy here, the green one. So I'm gonna just take it off. There's no point in leaving it. Blossom end rot is one of these things that is usually due to stress. So that explains a lot because I just haven't been watering this garden as well. In this air pot, I have a determinate tomato and it's actually starting to produce some. I planted it a little bit late, which is why it's starting to set tomatoes at an off time. But nevertheless, they look great. I'm gonna throw those in the basket. Not much else to say here. I have a little bit of pruning to do, so I'll do that really quickly before we move over to the squash, and then we're gonna head over to the Florida weave. Now we're over in the north garden, and we're going to be working on this pepper patch because there are a ton of shishitos that need harvesting. I actually see some that are turning red, which is fine. The interesting thing about peppers is that you can actually harvest the pepper at any stage that you want. A green bell pepper will turn red or orange eventually, or yellow, whatever variety it is. Eventually, all peppers, in my understanding, will actually turn to their final color, which is never green. So we're gonna go ahead and harvest all these. With shishitos, the really nice thing about them is that you want a lot. So that's why I have 6 plants, because when you cook them up and you blister them in the pan, you want a good amount or else you're not gonna get that much to eat. So that's why I have 6 plants. But all that to be said, there's quite a bit on here, which I'm very excited about. Now, the other thing I'll note is that when I was pruning the tomatoes, I was using these Felco 14s, which are really nice because they're small, they're nimble, and they cut through any size tomato stalk. But when I'm working inside of a pepper like this and I'm trying to get all these little peppers, I'm switching to a smaller snip. So these are the 321s. You could do everything with just one pruner or one snip, of course, but when you have both, you might as well use both. So this is just a lot easier and more nimble when I'm getting inside these plants. And I want to make sure I'm not cutting off any actual stem or growth from the plant. But let's just go ahead and grab all these and I'll show you the final haul. So there's the shishito haul. Of course, like I mentioned, there is a red one. So the thing with shishitos is that once they start turning a little yellow, or you could see a little tint of red, that's really when you want to harvest them. When they start turning red, they get very dry. Like this feels very papery and empty, so it's not going to be as succulent and satisfying to eat. But shishitos come in all shapes and sizes, and if you want to find a way to really enjoy them, just look up like blistered shishitos. They blister up great with lemon and soy sauce, for example, and then you just snack on them nonstop. They're extremely addicting. So now let's move on to the next task. Now we're over here by the 4x4 fabric raised bed, and I got some patty pan. Honestly, at this size, not crazy about these. Honestly, in general, not crazy about patty pan that much. But some others in the household really like it. That's why we grow it. This here, though, is a center cut squash. This is the ideal size, in my opinion, to harvest a center cut. At this size, it's going to be creamy, nutty, delicious. Cook it up in some butter, and you'll never go back to regular zucchini. Try it. I actually have a Lebanese squash. It could get bigger, but at this size, it's going to taste even better. That's the thing with squash. You could harvest them at many different sizes, but in my opinion, they always taste better when they're smaller. They have less developed seeds and they don't have that kind of fibery texture. But we're gonna move over here because there's actually a pretty bad problem with my second patch of corn. We'll talk about some options, but it's not looking too great. Let's go take a look. All right, so this is corn patch number 2. Corn patch number 1 was in the south garden. That one's doing phenomenal. But this one here, you could probably already see what's happening. This is not upright. And in fact, this is literally on the ground. So this corn flopped over. I already have an idea of why this happened. In this case, first of all, the wind here blows right through me, right into this area. So a lot of this corn is knocked backwards, which makes sense. Now there are a couple different things we could do to try to fix this. I've already tried, right here I've actually already started. I have a stake in the ground with some twine around it, and that's kind of helping them keep upright. What really happened here though was I let this patch dry out. I let it dry out too much. And what happened is the earth kind of shriveled back, the roots got exposed, and the corn flopped over because it didn't have enough deep roots where the water is. So it's kind of hard to fix it at this point because they're already tasseling, which is a huge bummer. This is something that could happen to anyone growing corn. But what we're gonna do now is find some stakes, shove them in the ground next to the plants, tie them up. It's gonna be very manual, but it's really the only option if you wanna keep this corn crop. This is the stalk that's fallen over. I'm gonna grab my bamboo stake and push it into the ground opposite of where it wants to lean. So I'm gonna take my twine, come through, and now we do this a dozen times. So here's the final result. I gotta say, I think that worked out. I think I will probably get some corn out of here. It's not perfect, but at least everything's upright. The other thing you could do that I was mentioning is that if you scoop up some soil or compost and pile it around all the plants, they might send out some new roots and help anchor it a little bit better. But I'm actually out of compost and I don't have any good clean dirt to use right now. So I'm gonna just let it ride, see what happens. Might be a disappointment, but I'm sure I'll get some corn out of this patch. But now we need to turn our attention to this behemoth of tomato trellis. And now that it's summer, you could definitely tell that I haven't tied them up in a week. So let's move on over, do a couple strings, and prune them up. Before we tie these tomatoes up, let's do a quick little walkthrough to see how they're doing. So again, I have 5 tomatoes on each row, and I have 3 rows. And you can see they are quite overgrown. They're filling in the pathway, but they look very healthy. So I'm really happy with that. I actually even have some fruit ripening down here. There it is. That's a Grenadero plum tomato. This is a powdery mildew resistant variety. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and snatch that guy because I haven't tried this yet. It's just about there, probably one more day on the counter. And over here on the cherry row, so all my cherry tomatoes are in the back, I have the husky cherry, and it's also starting to set. So you can see there's some leaves that need to get removed, and they're definitely grown past their last tie-up. This is not what you want to see over here. Basically, I haven't tied it up in so long that there's 2 feet unsupported and they're starting to lean. So let's go ahead and tie these guys up. Remember, we only did a simple basket where we just grabbed all the tomatoes into the trellis. But immediately now you could see there's an actual pathway here, which is fantastic. I could walk through. Makes it very easy to see what I want to prune. So as I come around the corner here in the cherry row, you could definitely see that there are some hangers like this sucker right here. That's not worth supporting. We'll axe that. But overall, quite pleased with the simple tie-up. The next thing we need to do is actually prune and then do a proper weave. But that's it for today, guys. There's way too much pruning and weaving to do for this, the rest of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that little walkthrough of what it's like to come back and prune your garden. And also, let's take a second to admire this harvest. We got a bunch of squash, a whole lot of tomatoes, shishitos, and cucumbers. I'm gonna, oh boy, that's heavy. Bring this inside and figure out what's for dinner. Here I am inside my kitchen, and just for context, this is the harvest situation that we're in. So we got a whole lot of beef steaks, good amount of cherries from today, and quite a few squash teed up. But I'm really, really happy with the shishito harvest. This is enough to actually cook up and have a nice amount to share.